I'm Alba. I am a developer advocate for Salesforce. And from Salesforce, we're running this tour called AI Plus Data Community Tour, because those two topics are becoming more and more important, and they are very, very related. So it's really important to understand how they are related and all the new different features and efforts that Salesforce is making to help our customers and our technical audiences adopt generative AI easily and in a secure way as well, okay? So let me start by explaining this slide, which just means that Salesforce is on the stock exchange, and if you buy something from Salesforce, you need to do it based on the features that are available. But Prompt Builder, which is the topic that we're going to talk about today, it's GA. Copilot is also GA, and Data Cloud is also GA. We are going to mention a pilot at the end, but the rest is everything available, so you can trust me. Here you have my contact details. Anyway, at the end of the presentation, I will be sharing a PDF with all the slides and with resources and my contact details as well. So you can take all the information from there if you can. And if you need something, you can write me later. But please take advantage of the opportunity of asking me questions live, because I'm repeating this session like over and over in many groups, and it is recorded. But the real value of the session is that I am here and that I can answer your questions live. So don't hesitate to stop me. I'm here to help you with like in learning these features and to help you solve all these questions. And this is what we're going to try today. And I'm also taking a look at the chat, by the way. And thank you for all those who are connected, and also for the organizers for inviting me. So what we're going to cover, we're going to start with Einstein One Studio, and we're going to focus in two of its apps, which are Prompt Builder and Einstein Copilot, and we're going to do demos for all of them. And finally, we will have like a short introduction to Data Cloud, and we're going to see how important it is in the realm of artificial intelligence. And I've been changing the deck over and over all the times that I have done this presentation, and this slide is new, because I think it's important to set the context. So why are we talking about generative AI today, right? And we are talking about it because AI has been evolving, and Salesforce has been evolving with AI to help our customers adopt AI successfully and in a secure and safe way, right? So I would say that we are like here in the middle between wave 2 and wave 3, because wave 2 is like general generative AI, ChatGPT, OpenAI, etc., that I'm sure that you all have played a little bit with. And wave 3 is autonomous agents, which is the concept of Einstein Copilot or other copilots or agents that help you that other companies have released. And Salesforce have been trying to accompany you during all this trip. And because this new generative AI paradigm came, and we want to help you adopt it in the context of CRM successfully, we have created a new architecture in which we have incorporated some layers, some concepts that are going to allow you to use generative AI within the platform and with security in mind always, and also with agility in mind. And this is what we're going to cover today. So we are going to focus on this layer, but we will touch a little bit on the trust layer and on also the different models that you can connect to Salesforce and use within Salesforce, and also on data. So, technical people, how can you build with AI plus data on the Salesforce platform? You can do that thanks to Einstein Quest Studio. Einstein Quest Studio is an umbrella term for 3 different apps that are going to help you build prompts, agents, or copilots and models on the platform so that you can use them later. These are Copilot Builder, Prompt Builder, and Model Builder. And the first one that we're going to see today is Prompt Builder. So if you have worked with ChatGPT, you know how generative AI works, right? You write something, a prompt with instructions, you send those instructions to an LLM or large language model, and because that large language model has been trained with data, normally public data, it is able to understand what you mean, and it is able to produce a response, correct? But that same thing in the context of CRM, it's a little bit more difficult. It's more challenging. Why? Because normally our prompts are going to include data that belongs to the customer data, customer that is stored in your CRM, in data cloud, data that is private, right? So we need like a secure way to incorporate that data into the prompt and send it to the model, right? And also, we need a way or we need to have an agreement with that model so that the model doesn't keep that data and doesn't use it to train itself, right? And this is the way in which we have implemented prompts in Salesforce. And this is like the reason because of which Prompt Builder was created. Okay, so Prompt Builder is an app where you can create something called prompt templates, and we call them templates and not prompts because they are going to be like the skeleton of what you want to send to the large language model, but you're going to have some mechanisms to incorporate data from your CRM and from Data Cloud into those templates when those templates execute or evaluate, right? And also, you're going to have some mechanisms to connect those prompt templates to the different tools of the CRM. This is, you're going to be able to call from templates from Flow, from Apex, from the REST API, and also from Copilot. Okay, that's the general idea. But we're going to see that much better in a demo. And for this tour, we are using a fictitious use case of a company called Coral Clouds that have a luxury resort on the beachfront, right? So when guests arrive to this resort, they can register into some experiences that are happening at the resort. There are some adventure activities, some cultural activities, and so on, okay? And each of the experiences have, for instance, reviews that customers have been giving to them. They also have sessions, which are like the exact moments in time in which these experiences are happening. And all the examples that we're going to see today are related or are using this data model and are meant to help Coral Clouds employees, the people who work at the reception, etc. They are meant to help them complete their job faster, right? Thanks to artificial intelligence. So the first use case that we're going to see is a prompt template that allows Coral Clouds employees to summarize reviews for specific experience. And if you want to work with Prompt Builder, you need to go into Prompt Builder in Setup, although I have heard that we are changing this to like the main app launcher, like here. Oh, my mouse is not working. Give me a second. Maybe I need to refresh. There it is. Okay. In any case, Prompt Builder is in the setup now. So when you activate Prompt Builder, because you acquire a license or one of the Einstein editions, there are some out-of-the-box templates that are there for you to use, but you can also create new templates, okay? And these are some custom templates that I have created. When you create templates, you're gonna see that there are 4 different types of templates available. And the main differences between them are, first, the objects with which you link them, which means the objects from which you are going to be able to grab data and incorporate it into the template once it is evaluated or resolved. And second, the entry points from which you can invoke them. So some templates are very specific for standard entry points. For instance, sales emails are meant to be used from the email composer, or field generation templates are meant to be used from Lightning record pages. But in reality, all of them can be invoked from custom entry points, such as Apex, Flow, and the API. So once you select the type of template that you want to use, you can link it to objects. Why? Because normally the template is going to hold information grabbed from different objects. And this is the way that you link it to one or more objects. For instance, flex templates, which are the most relevant for developers, admins, and architects, allow you to define up to 5 different objects that are linked to this template, okay? So I'm not going to create the template from scratch, but I'm going to show you some of the templates that we have created. And the use case I mentioned that we are going to see first is a template that allows employees to summarize the guest reviews for our resort experience. So because this template is a field generation template, it needs to be linked to one object. And I linked it to experience because we want to summarize the reviews that an experience may have, okay? So once you link it to objects, the objects are going to appear here in this dropdown. And when you click on the dropdown, you're going to be able to use fields from that object and also related list. And that is the way in which I incorporated here information from the organization. Organization is always available, same as running user. The experience, which is the input to which I linked this template, and the guest reviews for the experience, which is a related list, okay? This way of incorporating data from the inputs into the template is the simplest way because you don't need to do anything else. Just select the field or select the related list. But we're going to see some examples in which we do grounding. This is called grounding when we incorporate data this way, using more complex data providers such as Flows and Apex. But let's keep it simple for now. So here is where you define the template. Templates are versioned, same as Flow, same version in system. You can select the model that you want to use, and some models are offered as a service by Salesforce. But if you want to incorporate your own models to connect to a private OpenAI account or a fine-tuned model that you have, you can do that thanks to Model Builder, which is one of the apps which is part of Einstein One Studio. But for now, I'm going to just select that model. And here at the bottom, we see an area which is very interesting because it allows you to preview the responses that this model is giving to this template once it's evaluated, taking into account certain inputs, specific inputs, and to see the resolved prompt that is sent to the LLM and also what the LLM responds. Why is it so important to have this area here? Because iteration in generative AI is key. You need to iterate many times to get a good response. And thanks to that, we can do it here. So I'm going to select here, for instance, one of the experiences, which is tropical snorkel adventure. And we're going to try out our template. Okay, so here on the left, we can see the resolved prompt. It's the exact same thing that we had here, but with all its references resolved for this input. And then on the right-hand side, we can see what the LLM responded with, okay? So this is preview and testing. Then how do you use this like in a real scenario, right? So because this is a field generation template, it's very easy because we have a standard entry point. And that entry point is the record page. So when you create field generation templates, you associate them with a record, and you need to go into App Builder and select the field in which you want that template to be available. So for instance, because we are generating guest reviews, here I associated that template with a field called reviews summary. And here on the right-hand side is how I associated it. And I already did that for the sake of time. Then, if a field has a template associated, you are going to see a slightly different edit button. And when you click on edit, you're going to see an Einstein button. So if you want to use that template to generate a value for that field, you can click on it. And then what's happening here is the exact same thing that we saw in the preview area, but instead of the preview area, in this Einstein sidebar, which is the out-of-the-box entry point for this kind of templates, okay? So Einstein, well, really GPT 3.5 has generated this response, and now I'm able to go ahead and use the response in this field, okay? And this is great, but for builders, for technical people, it's like more interesting to create our custom entry points and also to see some more advanced examples of grounding. And that is what we're going to see in our next example. So our next example is a sales email template. And this is an email template that we're going to use to send an email to customers saying or listing the experiences that they may like. How do we find those experiences? Well, because we have information on the contact record, which is the object that represents our customers, of the interests and likings that those customers have, okay? Because we need to do a query comparing like which experience type may be of interest for which customer, right? It's something more complex. So we cannot use simple merge fields anymore. We need to use something a little bit more advanced to do the grounding. And in this case, we decided to use Flow, although we could have used also Apex. So let me open here flow and see how that flow looks like. Okay, so first of all, if you want to use a flow for grounding, you need to create a special type of flow called prompt-triggered prompt flow. In that flow, the first thing that you need to do is to select a capability, which is basically the type of templates for which this flow is going to be available. And also, you need to set the input data types. For instance, because we want to send an email to our contact, this field generation template, we associated it with the contact record, which here is recipient because they call it this way, but it's really a contact under the scenes. So here, for recipient, you need to select like the object that you want to use as an input for this flow. Because when we evaluate the template, when we invoke the template, this flow is going to be executed and it's going to get that input, that contact passed in so that we can do something with it in the flow. This is, we can use the template inputs in our flows and our Apex classes. So here we are doing something. Because we know that the contact interests are stored in these fields, we are filtering experiences by type, and we are filtering those types that match either of the contact interests. And then we are looping over the return experiences, which are the ones that the contact may like. And then we are using this new element that every time that you use it is going to add a new line into the prompt because it is within a loop. So for every experience, it's going to add the experience name into the prompt. So if we evaluate this here, for instance, for the contact Sofia Rodriguez, we are going to see how in the prompt resolution, Salesforce is executing this flow, finding the experiences that Sofia may like according to her interests and adding them into the flow, the prompt, sorry. And then, well, this is the email with which Einstein is coming up. So there is an out-of-the-box entry point for this, which is the draft email capability. So when you click here on draft email, you can select draft with Einstein and select the template that you want to use. Okay, super easy. But again, for builders, super interesting, the ability to create custom entry points rather than use the standard ones. Well, you can use the standard ones, of course, but I'm sure there will be requests and nice ideas to create custom entry points. Okay, and our third use case today is going to be a prompt. Here we have the prompts, there it is, that allows, we're going to use this one, okay. Oh, I'm going to show you both. Well, I'm going to show you first this one because I want to show you Apex grounding.
Just a quick question. If we go back to the email generation prompt.
Yes.
You said it's can be only a contact, right?
It can be a contact or a lead.
Or can we also use a personal account?
I am not sure. I am not sure. Maybe if you have personal account activated, it works, but I cannot tell you because I haven't tried it out.
All right, okay.
But contacts and leads for sure. Okay. Thank you for the question. Great question. Okay, so I'm going to show you a template in which we are grounding with Apex, okay? So same as we created a flow to do the grounding, we can create an Apex class that does the grounding for you. The requirements for that Apex class is that it needs to receive the inputs. Well, I'm going to show you 1 second because I have class data. Okay. Let me show you because I didn't plan to show code because Abdel Hakim told me that most of the people are admins or architects, but I'm going to show you very, very briefly. Okay.
You can also read the code as well. So
okay. Okay, perfect. I can show you, for instance, 1 second, because I didn't open Code Builder. Method. Okay, I can show you this one, for instance. So what you need to do is to create an invocable method. In that invocable method, you need to set the capability type. So same as in flow, we defined, I want this flow to be available for sales email templates. Here you need to say the same. And then that method needs to receive a list of requests. And those requests are the object that is going to contain the information of the inputs so that you can use those inputs in your Apex code. And then you need to return a response that is always like this. The response will always contain a variable in which we will add all the information that we want to incorporate into the flow, into a prompt again. So same as in flow, we had a component that allows you to add new lines into the resolve prompt. In Apex, we just return a string with all the lines, all the text that we want to use within the prompt. And the logic that we implement is whatever logic we need to compute the text that we want to add into the prompt when grounding happens. Okay, so that is how would you do like Apex grounding, and once you have an Apex class available, it will appear here, and you will be able to like find the or execute the prompt and use it and see how Apex return that text for doing the grounding. But I'm interested.
How do the input parameter is pushed to the Apex? So you have request right now, and then you have the contact inside that request as as an input parameter. So
yes, exactly.
This one goes to the code, right?
It goes through the code. So, this is Greenhouse. This is not the correct repo. Let me open it again. Through the code. So you need to define a class, which is the request that contains the definition of your inputs. And these API names needs to map, API names need to map those in the template. So if you have defined a contact input and it is called contact, you need to use the contact API name here. Hope that makes sense?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
One question, Alba, like, do we also need to implement any interface specifically to use this?
No, you don't. It is just the invocable method definition.
Okay.
And you said the capability type that you want the method to be available for.
Okay. The last point I did not get, like you said, the contact we need to mention in the template means that the correlation I did not understand how this will work. If you can show.
Yes, sure. So do something. I'm going to put this in a different desktop so I can show you better. Okay. I'm going to do something because I didn't spin up Code Builder. I'm going to open here the developer console and show you, but don't tell anyone I'm opening the developer console.
Of course not. We will just put it on YouTube and then everyone.
It's okay. I'm going to show you this code here because I don't have this in my VS Code instance, and you are going to understand it better if I show you the real code. Okay, so if my template is this one, generate personalized guest experiences, and my template, we go into the settings and we see that it has an input, which API name, it's my contact, which is of type contact, although we are not seeing that here, but it's a contact, which API name is my contact, and I defined this when I created the template.
Okay.
That means that my class needs to have a variable called my contact, because when the Apex grounding is resolved, this method is going to be executed. And in this request list, I'm going to receive the information of that contact, the contact with which the template is being evaluated.
Yeah, makes sense. So just one more question. So like when you were creating the template, that time only you created this variable, correct?
Exactly.
But later in point, if I want to create one more variable, then that's not possible, right?
You can, I think you can edit if you deactivate. It's not going to let me do that. Let me go back and try to create, for instance, I create one and I create a flex template, and then I link it to a contact, okay? Test. Okay. And for instance, I save it, okay?
Mhm.
And if I click on settings, oh, it's not possible. No, it is not. I thought it was possible, but it doesn't let me change it.
Okay.
So you should probably like create a new one.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much, Alba.
No problem. These are deployable. It's a metadata type. So
Okay.
probably you could like deploy something new if you are automating things.
Okay.
And for the
Yeah.
output, Alba, so for the output you have prompt, right? So it should always be prompt as a name.
Yes,
It can be a different thing.
exactly. For the output, it's going to be always prompt.
So I see the code, it's uppercase on the variable. So
It's
also be
uppercase.
uppercase also as well. So
It's uppercase. Yeah, that's an issue, but practice that happened. I don't know how to call it, but yeah, it needs to be uppercase. If not, it doesn't work.
I thought it just doesn't matter, but it needs to be, right? So if we put it like lowercase p, it will not work.
Yeah, because it's like the API name. So okay. So last template that I want to show you. This one doesn't have any special rounding, but it is a template that it's a little bit more complex because I'm using it to generate social media posts to promote one specific experience, right? And I'm telling the model, like I'm sharing some examples of the type of format that I wanted to generate for Twitter, LinkedIn, and Slack. And I'm asking to return the information in JSON. Why am I doing this? Because developers and so admins and architects can create custom entry points to invoke templates from Apex Flow and the API. And one of the entry points that I created for this was this controller, which is some Apex code that I'm calling from a Lightning Web component. So in this controller, I'm calling that prompt template. So same as we called the field generation template from the UI, and we called the sales email template from the email composer. Here, I created a custom Lightning component to call this. How do you do this? Well, same as you need to select the input in the UI. When you preview, for instance, or if you are composing an email, it selects the contact, which is the recipient, or if you are on a page, it selects the record that you are seeing. Here in Apex, you need to say which inputs do you want to execute that template with. Then you can set some configuration. There are a lot of things that you can configure, such as the temperature of the model, such as if you want to just preview the resolution of the prompt, or if you want to send it to the model, and lots more parameters that you can send to the model. And then you call the service to generate the response. Calling this Connect API, Einstein LLM, generate messages for prompt template method. You need to pass in the name, the API name of the prompt template, and the inputs and configuration that you created. And this is going to execute your prompt and generate a response for you. And then you're going to be able to do whatever you want with that response. In my case, I'm using it in a Lightning Web Component. So if I go here to one of the experiences, oh, why it's not here? Oh, because it's in experience session. Yeah, so if I come here, this is the component from which I'm calling that Apex, and I click on generate social media posts. Now I'm calling a template with Apex. And you can do the same with Flow, because they are automatically exposed and as invocable actions. So it is super easy, because it's just in the same way that you would call any invocable action, you can call a prompt template. And they are also automatically exposed through the API. You see, and this generated the social posts that I asked it to generate, and I was able to retrieve all that information by parsing the response, which is in JSON format. Does it make sense?
Yes, just one more question. What is the experience session? It is just an object, right?
Yeah, it's a custom object in which we are keeping track of the sessions that we have for each experience in the resort.
Okay, got it.
Mm.
So how this data is getting generated, like based upon what, like Twitter, LinkedIn, all those things, because this has to be a static data, or it will be like every time new, like whenever we are clicking on the generate button.
It's every time new, because what I'm doing, so I created this template in which I'm giving the model some instructions to generate a blog post for Twitter, LinkedIn, and Slack.
Mhm.
And I'm saying like which the format should have. I'm saying, please include emoticons and things like that, emojis and things like that. And I'm sharing some sample code, because for the Slack post, it's like a little bit more complex what it needs to return. And if you share some examples, it is able to return like better responses, right? So this is what I'm saying. And every time that you execute it, it's going to be different, because you are sending different requests to the model, and models never return the same.
Okay.
And it's taking the information from the session in which I'm visualizing here, because in my Lightning component, I'm taking that session ID and I'm sending it to the Apex method.
Okay, got it. So these posts are like different events that are going to happen. So it will always be different.
Yes, exactly.
Got it.
Different by session, but also different every time that you click on the button.
Okay, but just one more question. So how this data is getting pulled from the LLM model? Like it already have pre-existing data as of now, or how does
So
it work on real time?
yeah, so what we are doing is to send that data to the LLM, because I'm saying here for each post, add a title including the name of the experience, which is this one.
Okay.
Add the description, which is this one.
Mhm.
So in Salesforce generative AI, the model doesn't know anything about what we have in Salesforce. So we need to incorporate it in the template somehow. And that's why we have all those mechanisms for grounding,
Mhm.
which
Okay.
means incorporating the data, because it's very important, because it's the only way we can send that information to the model, unless we train a custom model for ourselves, which is like super costly, and I don't even know if it's feasible with
Okay.
just the amount of data that we may have in our ORs, and it would become outdated really soon, because once models are trained, they remain in that data, right? So
Yeah.
this would be like a way of incorporating real-time data and send it to the model.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I do have another questions also as well. So regarding this Apex check, is
Uh-huh.
it does work for experienced cloud users also as well? So let's imagine that I
Yes,
would like to give them the possibility to generate some content by themselves on the Experience Cloud.
uh-huh.
So I have seen in the documentation that it is possible, but when I tried, it was not working. I'm not sure if it was a bug or it's not possible at all.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't see any reason because of which it shouldn't work, because at the end is Apex.
Exactly. Yeah.
Apex that you execute. But if you have any concrete example, maybe you can share it with me and I can try to
Definitely. Yeah. I do
take. Okay.
discuss that later on.
Just another question. Do we
Yeah.
have any limitations, as in like the limitations for merging the fields with the flow, Apex,
Mhm.
or the size of the template, how big the template can be?
Yeah, probably there is a limitation of the size. I'm not aware of the limitations because I haven't like tried to push the limits myself. But everything in Salesforce have its limitations documented. So I recommend going to the documentation and look for limitations, and anything that's a limitation is going to appear there.
All right, thanks.
But for sure, everything in Salesforce has limitations.
There is one other question. So if you go back to the demo, so I see when you try to add an Apex on the resources, so in some of them it says unavailable. Is that related to the type of the?
Yeah, because only the Apex classes that are flagged as available for whatever template are going to pop up.
So you need to create first the template and then create the Apex class related to that specific template, right?
Yes. And then once you save the class is going to appear here.
And if you would like to create one class for multiple templates?
So you can do that for sales templates and for field generation templates, because sales templates all have the same inputs, right? Or field generation templates. No, I'm thinking.
No, if I would like to use this, for example, for one template, and I like those sessions as well, but I would like to use it for another prompt template. So should I create like two different classes?
Yeah, you need to create two different classes for that. Yeah.
Or I just create a handler in between and then I call the handler inside this, so I only repeat the skeleton of the capability.
Yes, exactly. What I was trying to say before is that for sales email templates, I think it's this way or something like that, you don't need to set the name of the template. So you have like more reusability,
Or the
because the template is going to pop up for all your sale email templates, which use a contact or whatever you put in here. But for flex templates, you need to be more specific and set the flex template name.
So just going back to Asif questions, so related to the limitation. So I have experienced some limitation in the past, and that was not related, to be honest, to the prompt itself, but it was related to the field, because the content generated by the prompt was more than the content expected by the field, like number of characters I'm talking about, and I could not save that field. So I think that's the only limitation I have observed there. So for example, so this one, it can generate, I don't know, 200 characters or something, but it can also generate more than the characters which are allowed by that specific field. And of course, at that moment, it will not allow it to save, right?
Yeah, so that's something that you can control in your prompt, because you can add a sentence saying, don't like stick to this length.
Yeah, so it's based on the instructions.
Yeah.
But what I understood right now, I'm not sure if everybody else is sharing the same opinion as me, is like the prompt is the key of, like the content of the prompt, the instructions is the key of all of that to be successful. So if your instructions are not clear, so your generation or what you will get, it will not maybe reflect to what you're looking for, right?
Yes, exactly. And that's why iteration is so important. If you have tried ChatGPT, it is the same. So I've used ChatGPT to help me with titles and abstracts of presentations, for instance. And I need to try a couple of times till I get a result that I like, right? So it's important to work on these templates. And something that we are working on, and that is, we haven't announced yet, is Safe Harbor. It's a testing framework. It's more an evaluation framework. So you're going to have the ability here on Prompt Builder and also through an API of evaluating the accuracy of your prompts. And you are going to have certain parameters that you will be able to explore and see if the change that you made the prompt more or less accurate. And things like that. It's like evolving a lot, and it's going to evolve a lot because we are doing like a lot of investment on this. And very soon we're going to have like more tools available that makes this even more powerful, right? Another thing that we're working on, it's in all the grounding from Data Cloud. So now in the summer release, we are targeting to have a GA, the similarity search capability, which is going to allow you to do semantic search in Data Cloud, structured and unstructured data, documents, PDFs, knowledge articles, etc., and incorporate those results here with a data provider, like same like this, but with a search. And we're going to also release data graphs, which is another way in which you will be able to bring Data Cloud records into this. So this is just the beginning. My recommendation is get familiar with this, because lots of things are coming in the next releases.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Just
I'm going
one more question, one small question. Like Abdul said, like he was facing one issue with the text, like if it was exceeding. So how we can control, like you said, we can mention something. So we can send any instruction to the LLM, like return the response less than this character. Can we do that?
Yes, of course. Of course, you can, as the more specific you are with the instructions, the better response you are going to get. In that prompt that I asked the LLM to generate the social posts, I changed it many times till I got it working every time. Because at the beginning, sometimes worked, sometimes it didn't work, and I did many iterations I change the instructions, the order, everything, because the LLMs are able of reasoning and are able to read your instructions step by step. And it changes a little bit if you first, you need to be very structured in the way that you say things.
Okay. So in the apex, we can get the length, and we will return only when this is less than the specified character. That's how we can do, right?
You could do that in two different ways. So one of the way is defensive. You add an instruction in, you know that the length is 2000 characters. So you add an instructions in the prompt that says, please return the response in less than 2000 characters. And that's it. That would be like defense, like doing, like it's preventive. The other way would be like once you process the response in Apex, you can check for the length. But I think the other solution would be
better. Okay. Once maybe at the end of session, if you can show me how we can do in the prompt, that I would be interested to know. So other part I understood how we can handle the preventive. I'm not sure how.
Yeah, just add in a sentence yourself.
Oh, just the instruction we can give.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Thank you.
Okay.
Alba, there is a question on the chat. Can you please check?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Abdel.
Yeah. So there's a question from Marco. Marco, we are not covering that because Einstein discovery is predictive AI, and today we're covering generative AI. So I'm going to briefly cover Copilot because I need to leave very soon. But ping me on LinkedIn and I can try to help you with that, or I can try to find some information regarding that. Okay. So something very important, all the prompts that are sent from Salesforce, they always go through the Einstein Trust layer. This is a layer in which we're going to implement some security steps to make your prompts more secure. We're going to mask the sensitive data, for instance, and we're going to add some instructions to the prompt so that the model returns good data that is using proper language, data that doesn't hallucinate or doesn't include hallucinations, things, because models sometimes invent things and we don't want them to do that. And then we have these zero retention agreements with the model providers, OpenAI, Azure, and so on, so that they don't keep the models. So Copilot. I like explaining Copilot, such as going one step further than what you can do with Prompt Builder. Because with prompts, the use case is like simple. You write instructions, you send them to the model, and the model returns a response, which is a text. And then you do something with that text. But that's it, okay? It's the ChatGPT use case. But Einstein Copilot is more advanced and more complex at the same time, because Einstein Copilot is able to take action for you in there. So we are not talking about creating text anymore. We are talking about creating records, updating records, querying records, summarizing records, aggregating records, and more, right? And on top of that, it is able to respond to your request, but by combining a set of actions. So maybe your request is a complex request that implies creating a record and summarizing a record and doing something else, like doing several things one after the other. So Copilot is able to find out what to do and to do all those things for you. And it's able to do that thanks to using a large language model behind the scenes. But we don't see that. It's something that's happening behind the scenes for us. So what you do is you ask something to Copilot. Copilot uses a large language model to identify the intent of what you want to do. What do you mean? Copilot has a set of actions defined that you have assigned to that copilot. So you have say in this copilot, I want to have available the identify record action, draft email action, and a flow action, because there are custom actions too. And it's able to like identify which actions can it use to fulfill your request. And then it executes those actions step by step, okay? We are going to see that better in action because it's much easier to understand. So let's say that I'm here in my org. If I want to open Copilot, I have to click in this button and I can start typing here. So for instance, I can ask, are there any high priority cases open? And then Copilot is going to evaluate what I mean with this. It's going to take a look at its available actions. It's going to select the actions that may fulfill my request, and it's going to execute those actions step by step. So we're going to see here that this is what the users would see. Come on, Copilot. Okay, there it is. This is one high priority case that is open, but same as we have Prompt Builder, we have Copilot Builder. And in Copilot Builder is where we're going to be able to customize the actions that each copilot has, because we can have multiple copilots, multiple agents in our org. And we are able also to test those actions, because if I write here, are there any high priority cases open, which is what I executed like as a user. Here I'm executing that as a builder, as a person who's building a copilot. We can see what Copilot is doing behind the scenes. And for instance, in this case, we see that Copilot selected the query records action. There are many out-of-the-box actions available. So for instance, I can ask him to give me the overview of the contact that is related to this case. And here we see another characteristic of Copilot, which is that it is able to remember the history of the different interactions that you have with it, because it's able to identify that I am asking about the contact that is linked into this case, okay? And here we see that it used another action, summarize record. And we can do like more complex things, such as, for instance, ask to find the number of contacts that have interest on a specific type of activity, okay? And this time we're going to see that it uses another type of action. Come on, Copilot. There it is. This is another type of standard action that is using. And we are seeing that in these cases, it just used one action, but if your request is complex enough, it is able to find out to chain different actions and execute them sequentially one after the other to fulfill your request, okay? That is capability that Copilot has. And same as in Prompt Builder, we can create prompt templates that are grounded with Flow and with Apex. Here, we can create actions that execute a Flow or execute Apex. For instance, this is an action that executes Apex, okay? The actions are not created here. They are created on a different section of the menu, which is Copilot Actions. Here it is. But basically, when you have an Apex class that represents a Copilot action, it is going to appear here. Well, you click on New Copilot Action, you're going to be able to select your Apex class or your flow, or your flow or a prompt template as well. and you will be able to create a custom action using that class. The structure of the class, it's very similar to what we saw before, in the sense that you need to create an invocable method. Why? Because when Copilot executes the action, it is going to execute this method, passing in some inputs, which are something that you need to define, and returning some outputs. And those inputs and outputs are the ones that you are going to, what is it? Here, are the ones that you are going to need to map in your custom action definition. For instance, this is the input that we define in Apex, and these are the outputs that you define in Apex. Okay, so to test this final action, I need to go into, I can do it here, for instance. Let me copy another query or another request. Okay, if we want to test that final action, I can write something like this. And because I have given a definition to that Apex action, Copilot has been able to identify that I have an action which calls Apex and which calls an external weather API that it can use to check the weather on the Coral Cloud result. And this is the output that that Apex class would be generating. Okay, that's mostly it. Okay, I see some questions on the chat, so I'm going to take a look at them. Can the solutions be installed on a local server due to security policy? The data cannot be.
I think you can just look at the last one.
Okay. Okay, the last one is, I understand it's possible to connect your own LLM. It would be nice to know how that works. Yes, that's another app called Model Builder that you can use within Salesforce. And it's very easy. It's point and click. So you go into the builder and you select the service that you want to use. At the moment, OpenAI and Azure are available. And then you follow like a wizard and you connect to the model that you want to use. At the moment, Copilot uses a preset model, which is OpenAI GPT-4 Turbo. And in Prompt Builder is where you can select the models that you want to use. But in the future, Copilot will be flexible as well in regards to models. Any more questions? Does Einstein Copilot standard custom actions get executed? Does that automatically trigger the action based on the keywords you provide? Yes, exactly. So what I did here was I provided some keywords, right? If we take a look at the action definition, it's very well explained, because we say this action checks the weather at Coral Cloud resorts at a specific date. Date must be provided by the user. Date for which we want to check the temperature is the input. The variable needs to be an Apex date with format, whatever. So here, thanks to giving that definition to the action, the model behind the scenes is able to map our request to this action. And it's able to say, okay, let's execute this action, which is an Apex class, because with this action, we are going to fulfill the request. Does it make sense? You're welcome.
All right, I think we should move to the next one, Alba. So
Okay,
something
perfect. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm going to need to skip Data Cloud because I have an appointment and I should have left like 10 minutes ago. But something that we can do is I can record this part and send it to you. And you can ask me questions asynchronously. What is important to know from Data Cloud is that for good AI, we need good data. And thanks to Data Cloud, we can harmonize the data that comes from different sources, and we can use it to enhance the quality of our prompts. And as I mentioned in the prompt builder part, we are working on a lot of features that will help you incorporate Data Cloud data into prompts and into Copilot. So Data Cloud is going to become more and more important. At the moment, everything is mostly pilot, but in summer, you're going to be able to play with Data Cloud in Prompt Builder because it's going to be available. Some features are going to become available. So stay tuned. For now, play with Prompt Builder, Copilot, and Basic Data Cloud. These are 3 Trailhead modules that you can complete to request a 5-day trial with generative AI features activated and with Data Cloud features activated. And I recommend you to get familiar with this so that you are prepared for summer, which is when the ability to incorporate Data Cloud into prompts will arrive. And if you want Abdel hacking, because I felt this was a little bit rushed, we can plan another meeting in summer when these features are available, and I can show them to you. We are not showing them still to anyone, but in summer they are going to be available. So if you have interest, I'm happy to schedule another meeting and respond any questions that may leave open today for Data Cloud, and we can see all those new features that are coming.
I think what's the best is that as soon as you know that they are live, so you can connect with me and then we can plan another session. So I think that's option.
Okay, perfect. There is one more question. Okay, how does the message look like? Is the question is unconnected. If Copilot doesn't know the response, it tells you, I don't know the response, which is great because we don't want it to hallucinate and to respond with something that it doesn't know how to do. Sometimes it asks you for a record. So for instance, if you do something like summarize a case, I think it's going to ask me which case. Okay, something like that. Let's take a look at that. Meanwhile, I'm going to read the other question. Can we specify how the output appears in a Copilot conversation in the near future? Yes. Now it is not possible. There are some preset UIs. For instance, we saw this one is the one used for queries. When one record is returned, when multiple records are returned, is the same, but with a list. And we also saw the summarization one. Okay, in this case, it picked the previous case because it's remembering the history. But maybe if I refresh and I try again, we can see that. Okay, so the outputs. So these UIs that currently are automatic, they are going to be configurable in the future. You're going to be able to use a Lightning Web Component or things like that. So that's very useful. You see, here it's asking me like, which case do you want to summarize? Whatever. And then you can submit and then it continues. So it's like smart. Okay. Thank you so much, Alba. It was a very nice session. Thank you. Thank you very much to you. And I think the rest of the questions are responded. Anything else that I can help you?
I think you need to reach out to your next meeting, right?
Yeah, that's fine. Just one more like tiny thing. There is a quest that you can complete, which is available in your country, which is if you build something with Prompt Builder or Copilot, you can record a short video of 1 minute. And if you use this hashtag, you enter in a raffle to win a Dreamforce pass or a t-shirt. T-shirt, I don't know if it's super interesting, but the Dreamforce pass for sure. So I encourage you to participate.